Hello, everybody. It's Chris here, and tonight we are live with another Scrap Your Scraps number 2 layout. Tonight I'm working with some autumn themed paper, and I sent out a list earlier. Some of you may not have received the list, so I'm going to go through the measurements of the paper you'll need. If you haven't pre-cut your paper, I would ask that you take a list of the measurements and then revisit this video later to put it together and just watch for the meantime, as I won't be stopping to do any of the preliminary cutting. I'll just be doing the cutting as we go for those that are prepared for tonight's class or that had access to the list. So the first thing I had asked, or not the first thing, but one of the things I had asked you to do was to find a background paper that coordinated with the papers that you chose. So I've chosen a chocolate brown 12 by 12 cardstock and a variety of other colors. Now for my mats, I chose just a pattern paper, and one of the mats is a 4.25 by 6.25 or 6.25 mat for your 4x6 photo. And then I asked you to get two 2.25 by 2.25 or 2.25 by 2.25 mats for smaller photos. So those three things were for the mats. Then I asked you to choose one paper, and from that paper you were going to make two 4-inch by 12-inch strips, and then one 4-inch by 4-inch strip. Okay. Then the second pattern, I was asking you to create one 4-inch by 11-inch piece. And then in the third pattern, you were going to create, where am I? Two pieces. I think one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have a 4 by 9-inch piece and a 4 by 8-inch piece in that third pattern. And then in our fourth pattern, I had asked you to create a 4 by 8, if I'm not mistaken. 2, 4, 6, 8. Nope, sorry, 4 by 9 and a 4 by 5. I've already forgotten. So that's in the 1, 2, 3, fourth pattern. And in the fifth pattern, you were going to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, an 8 by 4 or a 4 by 8 and a 4 by 5. Sorry, that's a 4 by 8 and a 4 by 6. All right. And we're ready to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take, I'm going to call this pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3, pattern 4, and pattern 5. So in pattern 1, we are going to take the smallest piece, which is your 4 by 4 piece. And then in pattern 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, in pattern 4, you're going to take the 4 by 5 piece. So you have a 4 by 4 piece and a 4 by 5 piece that we're working with right now. And I'm just going to move all my things over here. 1, 2, oh, 2 things together. Okay. So we have a 4 by 5 and a 4 by 4. These we are going to cut on a diagonal, and we have to be careful that we're cutting in the right direction in order for our paper cuts to work properly. So in the 4 by 4 piece, you are going to cut diagonally from the top left corner down to the bottom right corner. So I'm just going to do that quickly, lining up my paper. Now my cutting blade sits on the left-hand side of this little wire piece that's in the middle. So I always have to remember that if I want something to line up perfectly, I've got to be slightly off center to the left. And that's what gives me the actual cut. Now, I never start from above. If I'm doing a diagonal cut on a pointed piece of paper, I'm always starting from the center to go out because I don't want to damage that corner. And I'm going out, then I come back and go down, and then you get those nice crisp corners. Okay, so there's cut number 1 for our 4x4. Now our 4x4, our 4x5, we are going to do our cut the opposite direction. So we're going to start at the bottom left-hand corner and go to the top right corner. And again, I'm going to line it up according to where my blade sits on my cutter. Make sure I get this lined up properly. It's just a little bit fiddly at the beginning. And again, I'm going to lift my cutter into the center of the paper, go down or go up, doesn't matter, as long as I'm going out from within the center. And then you have those nice crisp corners. So now we're going to start to place these pieces. So we are going to take the right hand, so here's our cuts. We are going to take the right hand corner or the left hand corner of our 4x4 and the right hand corner of our 4x5. And we are going to come down and we are going to place those so that they cross each other like this. So they were originally like this, and now we're going to turn it this way, bring it to the edge, and we're going to tilt it slightly, but we want it to come off the paper. So I would imagine that yeah, so we're probably going to have it come. It depends where I want to see my center. And I think I kind of want to see my center a little bit higher. So I'm just going to maneuver my paper until I get it so that it's off the paper, off my background, just a little bit on the small one and probably more on the bigger one. So now I want to keep my hand on this. In fact, I'm going to use a little piece of repositionable tape so it doesn't move from its position. Oops, I moved it already. Okay, I'm just going to stick it here so that I know where I'm lining up. And I'm going to put adhesive on this piece. And we're just going to put a little bit of adhesive on there. And I'm going to line this up now so that it covers and touches this first piece from corner to corner. Okay. Now, I'm going to take this piece off, take off my repositionable tape, and I'm going to stick this down. Okay, like this. And I want it to get as close to that as I can. Now, here's where we're running into a problem. I have put this piece too high. All my points have to end up either here, or if I'm starting in the top corner, they all have to end up together. So I'm just going to move this so that this piece comes down a little bit more. And my point ends up in this center piece. Okay. Then I'm going to put these two pieces to the side, remembering that that's the top of the bottom and remembering that's the top as well. So I'm just going to lay them like that on this side. The next color I am going to get is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My fifth piece, which should be the smaller of the two pieces. And that should measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 4. Okay, I'm going to take that piece and with my cutter, wherever I put my cutter, there it is. With my cutter, I am going to cut that piece from top left to bottom right. Again, making sure that I get it lined up according to where my blade is. And then, whoops, shifted it. And then lift it up, move my blade into the center, run off, come back down. Okay, and there's my two pieces. And the piece I'm going to use now is this bottom left piece. So I'm going to keep that there like that. So the bottom left piece I'm taking, and I am going to adhere it in the same location. Okay, I seem to be getting an awful lot of paper off on this side. That's interesting. Well, we'll have to see how it all works. Oh, I know why, because I'm not putting a space in between. Sorry, folks. You need to put like an eighth of an inch of a space between. So this actually has to come up a little bit. You want to see the background. Whew, it's a good thing I caught that early. Sorry for that. Okay, and as you can see, I used the same paper twice. I used one side and then the other side. And now this one is going to come up and meet at about an eighth of an inch. And I'm trying to get my center in there. And if it's a little off or a little wonky, that kind of just makes it more special. And there we go. Alrighty. So now you can start to see that this pattern, this spiral is starting to happen. Okay, so then the next piece that I'm doing is color 3. So this was 1, 2, 3. Okay, color 3, we're going to use the smallest piece of that. And this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 by 4, 4 by 8. Okay, and we're going to cut that one. And this one is going to be cut 8 by 4. Okay, this is going to be cut from the right, or from the left, bottom left to the top right, bottom left to the top right. So we're lining that up again. And this becomes more important when you get it higher on the page. I'm hoping this works out. Oh, I just did the thing I shouldn't have done, and it messed up my corner. Now I've got a square corner on one end. So you should really drop your blade in the middle to make that work. And the piece that I am going to use is, oh, okay, I'm confused. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I've messed up my colors already. Definitely messed up my cut. Okay, so I think I'm going to switch this out. Alrighty, I should have done that the other way so that it fans out this way. And I don't like the other way. So you know what I'm going to do? I am going to do that all over again. So sometimes when you have cut something wrong, or you're not following the instructions right, or you make a mistake in your head of what you had planned to do, you can just get some repositionable tape and tape it together again. Why waste paper, right? We are not perfect in this world, and I for sure am not perfect at all. So it's okay to have fixes for when you make mistakes. Alrighty, now I'm going to cut that the opposite way, which is interesting. Okay, so I'm going to cut from the top to the bottom instead. Alrighty, lining up my page. All right, lifting it up, dropping it in the center, then going back up. This comes to the side. And I'm going to stick this down. And I don't think I'm going to need it that long. I see what they did. They switched it on me. Okay. Alrighty, so this is going to go in there. And I see that I need to just trim this corner a little bit. Over here on it. And there we go. And give it that 1/8 of an inch. There we go. Actually, I could have just left the bottom off. That would have been all right. Okay, so then the next color is going to be our first color again, our first pattern. And I'm going to cut one of these from the top right-hand side down to the bottom. Yeah. Just double checking to make sure that that was right. So the top right-hand side down to the bottom left-hand side. And it's a little tricky because it's more than 12 inches. It's more than 12 inches. So you got to kind of play around with your cutter. And drop it in the center, go up and come back. And if it's not, oh, mine cut completely. That's pretty awesome. And I'm going to put that there. And I am going to glue, I'm just going to put this glue here. And then I can glue along here. Make sure my adhesive stays hidden. All right, and we're going to go across there. And make sure this kind of comes up to a point. Alrighty. And then it sticks on the edge. And then I am going to zoom into my sketch again. Then the next color we're going to use is our 8-inch, and it should be the same as this one. So that should be our 8-inch, and let me just double check that I have the right one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so we're going to use this one. And again, we're going to cut this one, this time from the top left to the bottom right. Top left to the bottom right. Lifting up my blade, putting it in the center. Okay. And the piece that we are going to keep is going to be this one. All right. Okay, and we're going to put this one in and make sure that we watch what's going on there. It's very important to try and get the points if you can. And make sure that the adhesive stays hidden. There we go. And that's going to go in at that 1/8 of an inch or thereabouts. you know, get it as close as you can get it. Alrighty. And then the next piece is going to be our fourth page. So 1, 2. So this is going to be the piece, and it is going to measure 9 inches, if I'm correct in what I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is our third, 1, 2, 3, 4th pattern, and it's a 9 by 4. If you've got it mixed up, as long as you have a 9 by 4 inch piece, it should fit. And we are going to cut that top left to bottom right again. Alrighty. Oops, I almost dragged that through. Down and then up. And we are going to keep this piece. And that, whoops, should fit in there. Beautiful. Uh-oh, I'm running into a problem there. So what happens if I switch the pieces out? This is becoming tight. Okay, I may have to adjust this slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back, and because your adhesive isn't completely secure yet, let's drop this down a little bit and try to move that center over a little bit. This is tricky stuff. It's not your easiest thing to do, doing a windmill piece. And then that should get me pretty close to the edge. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to run some tape along here, and then tape. So you just kind of jiggle and adjust. There we go. That's a little too close. Alrighty, and I want to make sure I have that edge, but I give the 1/8 of an inch at the bottom there. Okay. There we go. Alrighty. So that worked. And then your next piece is going to be your original, and you should, by all intents, be able to use that piece you got before, which it looks like that's going to work. Alrighty. So we're just going to put a small little bit in the corner, and then if your tips are not staying down, don't worry, you can glue them down a little bit. Now I'm going to bring this right back into the centerpiece here, get it closer to the center than I had it before. Just because I want to draw us back into the middle. Alrighty, there we go. Whoops, I'm gonna have to glue those center pieces. And I might shift these a little bit to fit them in there. But for now, we'll keep working. And then the next piece is your number 2. We only have one of those number 2s. And we're only going to use one side. And we are going to cut this diagonal from bottom left. Whoops, you can't see me. Bottom left to top right. Okay. And we're only using one piece of this. So there will be pieces left over that you can use on a second page. And after you've had a little practice, and I know I need more practice, you can create a second page. We're going to use this piece, the right-hand side. All right. And just going to put a little bit of tape there. we're going to go into the center here. Give us our 1/8 of an inch. There we go. And then the next piece is going to be our third pattern again. So we had 1, 2, 3. So we're looking at our wood pattern. Whoop, turned off my light. There we go. And that's going to go in there. And again, we're just cutting it close there, but it will work. So we're going to put a little bit of adhesive along here and some adhesive here. Alrighty, I want to make sure that I've got it properly spaced there, giving it enough 1/8 of an inch there, and making sure that it goes all the way down. There we go. Okay, and it's still on that, still matches there, so we're good. And then the next piece is going to be this piece cut. So we're going to cut this from bottom left to top right. So I'll show you that from bottom left to top right again. And this again is going to go over my cutter, and hopefully I'm going to be able to align it properly. I just lifting my blade ever so slightly. Okay, now we're going up and going down, and hopefully that was able to make the cut. Beautiful. And this one is going to be the top, or the left-hand side we're going to keep. And we are going to place that right beside this one. Okay. So I'm going to put adhesive here. And adhesive here. I probably didn't need that much adhesive, but that's okay. Now I'm going to give it that 1/8 of an inch all the way down. Okay. And then the next color is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th color. So I should have brown, brown. Oh, I put this in the wrong place. Ha ha ha. This is supposed to come over here, and that is supposed to be the birds. Okay, whoa. So the birds is supposed to go in there. Alrighty. Did I get any on the tip? I did. So another thing I have just learned while working with you is I should probably number my papers. That would make my life easier, and I would make less mistakes. And I just realized I have too much adhesive here, so I'm just going to push that underneath. There we go, so you don't see it. And now this guy still has adhesive, and he's going to go right here with his 1/8. There we go. Alrighty. And then the final piece is going to be one. So green. So this is going to be the birds. Whoop. And I have one more piece of the birds, and I don't need to take the whole piece of the birds. And do I have birds on the back that I might be able to use? No. So I'm going to take a smaller piece of the birds to use in that section. So I'm going to need a diagonal. So it's going to be about 5 inches. So rather than waste this paper, I'm going to cut a 5-inch piece. And just do a diagonal. And I am going to do it from bottom left. No, from top left to bottom right. Top left to bottom right. And you'll see why that's important in a moment. It's got to fit into that final spot like a puzzle piece. Okay. Lifting this out, down. So now this piece has to fit in like a puzzle piece. Now I'm noticing that I need to look at how this is playing out. It's a little bit crooked. So I may have to thin this out. Now that I'm thinking, I cut that shorter, but what that did was made the angle wider rather than keeping the same narrow length that I would have needed to fit in this spot. So that's an interesting thing to learn on the fly. So that means I'm now going to have to adjust this. Get a pencil. And that's where the edge of the other paper is. I'm going to need to cut about there. So what I'm doing is I'm adjusting my last piece because when I shortened it, I made the angle wider. So now I have to adjust it so that it's going to fit into that spot because that spot was meant for a narrower angle. That's okay. You can learn on the go, right? There we go. And with any luck, this is going to fit in now. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. So I just adjusted and away we went. Perfect. And let's see if I can get a small bit on here. So sometimes you think you're conserving paper, but what you're really doing is you're changing the angles and measurements on other things, and you kind of don't want to do that. So conserving paper isn't always a good thing. So what you should have left is a little of everything except for this first paper. Oh no, you should have a first paper left as well. So you have a bunch of stuff here that you're going to put into your scraps and use for another project because we don't leave anything unused. Now, if we look at what's going on here, these are not kind of matching up and meeting in the center. So I'm going to play around with this just a little bit. And I'm going to pull this one down and eyeball it. And then I'm going to pull this one slightly down so that I can move these guys just a little bit more closely to the center. So it does look like there is an actual center in there. So you can see me just kind of moving them ever so slightly around to give them that idea that everything's going into the center. This one is too wide, that's why. Okay. This one hasn't got a perfect point, but that's all right. In the big scheme of things, it's not going to make any difference. And this one can go in there. Bring it down a little. There we go. All right, and there we have our little point in the center. Okay, so now we flip this all over and we begin to trim around the outside edge. You're going to need big scissors for this because you don't want to be running into problems when you're trimming and getting short little cuts on them. So you're going to cut right against the background paper and long cuts without cutting the background paper. The idea is to cut the paper beside it as close as you can to the background paper without cutting the background paper. And sometimes you need to put a little pressure on it. Long cuts. All right. Whoops, I'm sticking. Okay, and this I need to do another long cut. It's awkward, but it's worth it. All right. So the majority of this layout is managed in the actual cutting of the paper and applying the paper to the background. Once you've got that done, the fun part begins, and it's the shortest part of the whole layout. But we are using up scraps of paper. You know, you have that one piece left over from one kit and another piece left over from another kit. This is an awesome way to be able to use up all those random scraps if you can get them color coordinated or theme coordinated and put into a bin. You just pull out, which is what I did today. I just pulled out a bunch of scraps that kind of had a similar theme of color. From, I have to glue that one better. In fact, I think I will glue it before I try to put it down because it's going to give me a hard time in cutting. There we go. And there we go. So here, once you get rid of all the scraps, and please don't throw those scraps out. You can throw these little mini itty bitty things away if you want. But if you've got a good scrap, there's no reason to toss that. Just spend a couple of minutes after you finish the layout. Now, I can move this any way I want. I can have this layout going in this direction, in this direction, in this direction, any direction that I want. And the idea is that I'm going to be kind of putting my mats somewhere on this layout. And I don't necessarily like the way this turned out. It could have turned out better. Next one, I will make sure turns out better. So I'll probably put some kind of emblem on that, draws your eye into that point. So that's definitely not a place I want to interfere with, because I'm going to do something to make that extra special. Now, if I just pull out, I've created these, and I think I've spoken about these before. I'm just pulling out a couple of white cards so I can see what my mats are going to look like when I have photos on them. There's my 4x6. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what's going to happen with those mats when you're done. So you're not going to see as much of the mat as it looks like when you're laying it on your page. Okay, so I kind of like the way things are going here. I think I might keep this off to the side, have an equal bottom as to the side, and this looks pretty good, and that looks like it's 1 1/4 from the edge here. So I'm going to do 1 1/4 up for the first little guy here. So 1 1/4 up and 1 1/4 over. So there's 1 1/4 over, or 1 1/4 up rather. And we are here at 1 1/4 over. So again, I'm just eyeballing it because that's. Never used to do it this way. You ask my friends and they will tell you that I used to use a ruler for everything, but I'm finding that I'm enjoying the idea of not having a ruler more and more and more. Takes the stress out of the layout for me. Okay, and then I'm going to center this on the other two mats and leave a small space in between it so you can see them slightly separated, and make sure that I got that as even as possible. Do I like that centered? Yuck, I don't. So I'm going to put it the same level. I'm just going to squeeze it over a little bit more. There we go. There we go. And that looks pretty even. Okay, so those are where my base pictures are going to go. And now I want to find an element for this page. Now I had brought some of these out because I had made them on a previous thing where we took a bunch of stuff we had lying around and we made borders and things. But these are far too fancy for what's going on here. So I'm going to put them aside. And I think I'll just bring out some of the simpler stuff I have. I have tags. I don't even like those, so throw those away. This doesn't work with any of the colors that I'm working with, so throw that away. And let's see what we've got in this little package. So I'm just going to pull out a little bit of stuff and see if there isn't something I can kind of combine for the center. I don't know if flowers are the right way to go, but I've got a series of flowers I could put on here if I wanted to. Definitely I'm going to have some sort of a date on this page. Maybe I can put it on this little guy. Fall memories, fall memories, fall memories, fall memories, maybe down there, fall memories. And I got some other things that I can stick on there as little things to say. Okay, so let's get serious. So I'm not liking these flowers. We're not doing flowers. I don't mind pumpkins. If I have a series of different pumpkins, I might be able to pull something off here. A little bit of that. And a couple of leaves put in there too. What else do I have in here? All right. Oh, I got some feathers, but they're too patterny. So let's stick with what works. Another little pumpkin here. Fall memories with a pumpkin. I don't know. And what else? So we've got some mushrooms, maybe a little apple pie. Something like that, perhaps. And then I have this little saying at the bottom here that I like. Life starts all over again when it gets crisp in the fall. So I like that. Might put that. That's a good place to put that. And I have a couple of these things I could just have at one side of, and there's another leaf that I can play with. All right. I think that is it in this pile of things. Oh, there's another leaf. That's not really anything. I have a leaf that's already stuck with a bit of adhesive. And I think that's all I'm going for in this pack right now, because the rest are sort of the wrong colors. And I don't care about that because I know I pull out from that all the time. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quickly put down a couple of these. So pumpkin and spice everything. I want to make sure that I'm kind of doing things evenly. And I'm going to put that later. Live, laugh, love. Very cliche, but you know what? Doesn't fit in there anyway. Huh. Oh, that's interesting. Well, we're going to stick it on there. I'll have to trim it. So I'm going to stick part of it underneath and then trim the remainder. So the lid is still on there. And then falling leaves goes right up to the edge. And my husband is in the background arguing with the dog. She has him wrapped around her finger when it comes to treats and snacks and hugs. Oops, that's a little bit crooked. And she's coming to visit. Hello, Maya. She just dropped her ball at my feet. Okay, so I've got a couple of little saying things here. Now, I am going to use these pumpkins, but I'm going to pop one or two up and keep the others flat. So, flat pumpkins. Oh, we never do anything that's round flat. So I'm going to use my nail to shape this into more of a pumpkin-y shape. And you probably have seen me do this many, many times before. It's not working so well because I have adhesive on it right now. So I am going to have to use some pop dots for this. Those are not open. There we go. So I'm going to put 2 pop dots here. I'm going to bend the stem out and just encourage these edges to roll over. And that's going to be on one side. As soon as I take the backings off, well, we're doing good for time. So that's going to be on the one side. And then this bigger guy, now before I put adhesive on, I'm going to use my thumb to round this off. Give it a little bit of depth, bend up that stem. Give that a couple of pop dots. I don't have the big ones, so that's why I'm using the little ones, and you kind of need a couple of the little ones. And I'm going to put that there. Make sure I'm putting it evenly. Okay. Now I have an orange leaf, which I'm going to put over here. Because it's a sticker. Oh, there's another pumpkin. Okay, now this one sort of has sections. So I'm just going to draw my nail along that section while I'm holding it. And then go under and round that section out a little bit more. And then again, draw my nail along that section. And then try and pop this a bit. So it gives the idea that there's 3 segments in this pumpkin. So I don't know if you can kind of see it now, the 3 sections in the pumpkin there. All right, so I'm just going to put pop dots down the center section. And make sure that pops, then that pops, and then that pops to give it that 3D look. There we go. And there's your 3 pumpkins. Pop under a couple of leaves. This one has already been shaped earlier by me, and it already has sticky on it. So I might put that one coming out from under. Since it's already 3D, I'm going to have our pie on there. The pie should definitely, it's going to be Pop Dot id. Okay, and that's going to sit right there. And then the magic of glitter and other kinds of adhesives and things. So this is how we're playing out here. Don't forget this. This is going to be flat. And it's going to be right at the edge. So I can write something. And this I'm going to stick under. I'm going to bend it and I'm going to round it and put a Pop Dot under it. Now I could do this rounding using a rounding tool, but by the time I get it all out and wet it down enough to really do any good, I can do it with my finger. It works pretty good. It's all right, but if you're making proper flowers that you want to have pop up, then you really want to make sure that you're using a proper flower popper, because it does make a difference on flowers. There we go. And I think that's all my little doodads. Do I need another leaf up there? Leaf, 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 leaf. What if I did this? What if I did this guy? That guy under there. Yeah, sure. Why not? Oops, these are garbage. Kind of gives it a bit of separation. And is it fall yet? Now, can I put that on straight? There we go. All right, so now this is the fun part. We got less than 10 minutes to get this fun part in. I got some new Wink of Stella shimmers. This is the Christmas pack. I got them from Paper Crafters Workshop, and this is their, let me just move the camera. There we go. This is the website here if you want to copy it down. I got a ton of fun stuff. So in this pack, I have Christmas Sparkle, and the colors that are in it are clear, gold, and silver, it looks like. I can't really tell. But I do already have one open of a different brand. So, well, let me crack one open. Do I want silver? I think I want gold. So how you do this is you take out the two pieces. So this is the top where the actual head is. This little black piece comes off and gets thrown away because that's what prevents this top from penetrating that top. So when you're screwing it in, you have to make sure you screw all at once and nice and tight right to the very end. Okay, and then it's always a pull. So to push on and take off, it's always a pull. Don't turn now that you've taken that little black thing out, because if you do, you will end up with an open end and ink all over the place. So I'm going to shake it up. First, put the lid on, shake it up so all that glitter that's been sitting around doing nothing gets moved around. Alrighty, there we go. And now I have to prime it. So it says push. So that's where you're going to push. And you'll start to see ink come into the center here. Do you see the ink coming into the, you want to make sure it comes in, but don't push too much. So once you've got ink starting to happen in there, you just kind of mull it around until it starts to come out. There we go. Do you see how quickly that happened? If you push too hard, it'll come flying out of there and you'll just have a leaky pen. So this is looking good. Very gold, very lame-like. Ooh, lots of good stuff there. So I am just gonna, let's see, I'm gonna just play with this around the, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play with this around the edges of my mat, because you will be able to see it as it comes through after I get my pictures on it. Now I can't use those on there anymore because I don't want them to get gooey. And I'm going to do it along this edge. It looks like weird right now, but you'll see after, when I've got the whole thing and I put the image on the Paper Crafters page. And where else do I want it? Maybe just a little bit of glitter along the edge of this. It's kind of like painting it, letting it glimmer a bit gold there. Okay, brings down the white quite a bit. And maybe I can add a little bit of glimmer on the stems of these. And maybe a small bit along the bottom edge of all of the little sayings. This has quite a bit of pigment in it. So it is not a clear with gold in it. It is actually got a color base to it. So when you're using it, you want to make sure you want to see that gold color on there, not just the glimmer. If you want just the glimmer on there, then you're going to take the clear and use the clear. There we go. And along here as well. And along the edge here. Actually, I'm going to color that whole thing in. Give it more of an orangey color. Yes, I could have done this off the page, but I wasn't even sure if I was going to use them or not, so it's always better to lay them out and actually decide to use them before you change them, because they may not work into your next layout. Okay, so I'm going to do some glossy accents in some of these areas as well, and probably highlight some of the flower bits and a few of the birds. And you will see the finished layout in my post in the Paper Crafters Inner Circle. So if you're not a member of that group, go to Paper Crafters, it's all one word, Inner Circle, and ask to be a part of it. And you can see the finished layout with pictures and everything in it if I get that far. Otherwise, you'll see with any add-ons that I've done other than what we've completed in today's workshop. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you had an awesome workshop. And if you weren't able to get the supply list prior to this, I hope you will get those measurements and try it out. It's definitely a different way of thinking. Talk to you next Thursday. Bye.